It's time now for Countywide, a special presentation of Yavapai Broadcasting News. Join Paul David and Brad Miller as they talk with our community's leaders, newsmakers, and people in the know. You'll hear about the hot topics that affect all our lives here in Yavapai County. And now, here's today's Countywide.
Welcome to Countywide. I'm Paul David. Good to have you in the studio today. If you remember back on August 13th the incident happened, but on August 15th we did a story about 36-year-old Mike McIntyre Payson. He was rappelling in Oak Creek Canyon and he fell 140 feet. Actually, it was a double fall, and we'll get into that. Firefighter paramedic Johnny Cedillo in studio today, and firefighter Lars Romig in studio. And you were both involved in this event.
That's correct.
And this man survived.
He did.
Yep. And so we've been talking off camera here. We've got pictures that are going to show up about where you guys were all doing this rescue event. Let's start at the beginning. 911 call comes in. We've got a rappeller that's injured. You guys go out there.
That's correct. When we got the 911 call initially, it was approximately 3 hours after he fell. It was a very jumbled. The location where they were at had absolutely no cell coverage after this gentleman fell, and it turns out that literally our dispatchers were only able to hear that somebody had fallen and that he may have been stuck still on a wall on a rope and was unconscious.
He had people with him?
They had people with him, or a party of 7 that were descending the canyon they were in Insomnia Canyon, which is a side tributary of the West Fork of Oak Creek.
Is he the last one that was coming down?
He was the second one to come down. There was one other person below him when they were coming down. But as Johnny said, the call that came in was, if you could imagine the "can you hear me now" term that we hear from cell phones, there was very little information as to even.
Yeah. Anybody who drives through Oak Creek Canyon knows you can't get cell phone.
Yeah, so you can imagine.
Okay, you got a choppy message.
They did manage to get up in.
They were able to get out.
They were 2 miles in West Fork when they finally did get the first phone call in. And so that got the first initial units rolling to the lower West Fork trailhead to try and meet up with the reporting party.
Okay, so we're there. We got people on the ground on both sides of this, because this isn't Oak Creek Canyon.
Yeah, nobody's at the top yet.
Yeah, originally it was
just at the bottom, from the bottom, because we have no known. We still don't even know what the nature of this whole call is yet. We just got basically, like Johnny said, that this guy fell. He may be on rope still. He's injured, and we need full technical gear to get to him. So initially, we have an engine and an ambulance, and our rescue truck responding with
and our battalion chief.
And a battalion chief.
Okay, so we get there. What do we do? Course of action.
The battalion chiefs are discussing with all of us on the ground what possible ways we can access this gentleman. We, again, like Lars said, we have no idea where his location is and exactly what we're dealing with. So we send in a group, a recon team, if you will, on foot at the bottom of West Fork Trailhead with medical gear and backboard supplies, and to try and meet up with the individual that called 911. And simultaneously, but the battalion chief requested DPS Air Rescue, who happened to be on another mission at the time, to come to our location to assist us. When we have technical rescues and we have high mountain rescues, we'll request them to come in and visualize the patient and get eyes on, so we know exactly what we're up against. When he did that, he sent the ground crews in on foot at West Fork Trailhead, and then sent myself and another technical rescue individual to Slide Rock to wait for DPS Air Rescue to get there and access them via air, so we could get Sedona Fire District individuals' eyes on the situation and relay that information back to the battalion chief. Okay,
and you were telling me these guys are coming in on foot on West Fork Trail.
Correct.
And then you got the Coconino County Search and Rescue coming in from above. And when they got there, they find out where he's at and where everybody's at and where this happened. But what they run into when they hit that location?
Well, we still. The initial the initial recon crew that Johnny spoke of that head in to meet the people, as they're going in, they find out some of the nature of it once they finally speak to him as to what's going on. And that information is given back to our battalion chief, and they knew that they're going to need, at that point, they wanted lead climbers. They were still trying to go from the bottom up. And so there was a call put out to try and bring in lead climbers to come in to help access to the people.
He was 150 feet above.
And you can't see him at all yet. They're still at 150 feet of elevation, but you're talking about another 1.5 miles, 2 miles of canyon with multiple drops of elevation of dry waterfalls to get even to where he was. So there was no access from the bottom, and they thought there was a potential, the people that were there, to try and climb up to him. But that was later determined when the call was made. I was actually off duty and the call came in for lead climbers, and one of our lead climbers contacted me because I'm familiar with the area to discuss it, and we at that point determined that it was a canyoneering rescue because I'm familiar with the canyon, and that information was relayed on up back to some of the units there.
I feel so bad. He's he's fallen 140 feet. Well, you mentioned before the show started he fell 100 feet.
He fell 100 feet, hit.
Went unconscious, and then rolled another 40.
And then fell another 40 feet, landing partly in a pool of water and on a bench of sandstone.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so we've got 150 feet from, let's say, me looking up to where that's 150 feet. And then how far is it? We can't go up to him, so we have to come down. Now, how far are we going to come down to him?
So there's two things going on. Once we get a logistical stuff taken care of down at the bottom, the battalion chief sends me and 2 other of our technical rescue team members to the top. Johnny is still, and a couple guys are still on hold for short haul, and that's still one of our plans. Is we hope that we can short haul him by helicopter, but we start heading up to what's called Buckhead Point, up on top of the rim. So we have to go all the way up the switchbacks, and we're in one of our rescue trucks, all the way out to Buckhead Point, which is out towards the east pocket, and it's about a 45-minute drive to even get there, even though we're by the crow fly, maybe only 3 miles from where the patient's at, but we've got to go all the way around this way to get the vehicles up there. We tie in at that point. Coconut Search and Rescue has already got some of their rigging set up to try and descend from Buckhead Point, which is adjacent to where the patient has fallen, almost 1,800 feet below where we're at.
1,800 feet, okay.
And so we start off, and this is now, we're getting close to 6 o'clock at night by the time that we meet up with Coconut Search and Rescue. And so he's already been there since 12:30 that day. At lunchtime is when he fell.
Okay.
And so we start descending. We have a 600-foot rope going down, extremely steep, mixed from near vertical to vertical. So we're going down, and all of us are heading down this first 600-foot ropeway with multiple rigging packs. I had a 600-foot rope dangled beneath my harness on top of my own personal pack. And so we head down the first 600 feet and trying to coordinate with earlier GPS coordinates given by a DPS flyover that they did that Johnny mentioned. And then as we get down, we have to go another 600-foot ropeway down again.
When do you get sight of him?
We still have not even got sight of him. The helicopter hovered over their location.
We were able to ascertain his location approximately 3 o'clock, 3:30 that afternoon.
Okay, so somebody found and he saw him.
Yeah.
And it was okay.
When we went, the battalion chief initially, like I said, the recon crews went in. Lars was sent up around the top to the rim. DPS ranger out of Kingman actually came in and landed, picked myself up and another technical rescue guy, so we could take a look at that the gentleman and find his location. When we did finally find him, we were able to realize that there was not access from the ground up.
Are you guys amazed that he was still alive? The accident happened at 12, and now we're at 6 o'clock at night. You're still not even to him.
We had no information on him at all, as a matter of fact.
Okay.
Until the ground crews were able to meet up with his party. 3 of his members of his party actually came out and called 911. The ground crews were able to meet up with him. We were told that he was still alive, but he was on the ground approximately 4 miles up the canyon at West Fork, but we didn't get an individual on the ground with him.
That's what I'm asking next. Okay, what was the time frame? Okay, let's say 12 o'clock is the accident. At what point in time did we actually have somebody that was physically right there next to him and said, okay, this guy's still alive?
Not until almost midnight.
Shortly before midnight.
So about 12 hours he's laying there.
Yeah.
So
all banged up.
The 2 individuals who made it to him, Victor Walco is a Coconino County Search and Rescue volunteer who happens to be a Guardian Air flight paramedic, and another Coconino County Search and Rescue volunteer named Mike Gedkes.
So these 2 guys have gotten down there and they're with him. Okay, we have to take our first break already. Johnny Cedillo and Lars Romig, both firefighters. Johnny, you're also a paramedic with the Sedona Fire District. We're talking about an amazing rescue that took place in Oak Creek Canyon back on August 13th. Stick around, County Wide will be back in just a couple minutes.
1, 2, 3, 4.
The best songs ever made. Oldies Radio KKLD.
I see the bad moon rising.
The greatest hits from the 60s and 70s. KKLD.
95.9 KKLD The Cloud, playing the music you sing along to.
Northern Arizona's KKLD, the songs you love. Raising a child means working with partners, people you can rely on, for expertise, advice, and support. But when drugs or drinking enter the picture, who do you turn to? Well, there's help for that too. The partnership at drugfree.org. You're not alone.
Fire can happen at any time. What would you try to save?
My family photos.
My grandfather's war memorabilia.
My dogs.
I'm firefighter Brandon Wacker with the Canyon Fire Department. A working smoke detector is your best defense in the event of a fire. Make sure you have a smoke detector in every room except your kitchen. Test them monthly and change the battery once a year. Take the time to save the things you can't replace.
Sunny 100, your at-work radio station.
You're every word, you're everything.
With Malone in the morning, John Tesh in the evening, and the best variety of music all day long.
Waiting on the world to check.
Online at myradioplace.com.
And big girls don't cry.
Sunny 100, 100.1 FM.
Welcome back to Countywide. We're talking about an amazing rescue that took place back on August 13th in Oak Creek Canyon. A man fell 140 feet. 36-year-old Mike McIntyre out of Payson. Lars Romig and Johnny Cedillo in studio today both with the Sedona Fire District. All right, and you wanted to explain a little more. I mean, it's difficult for me to wrap it around my head. So yeah, do explain this to me. But it's 1,800 feet down to him. That is a long distance to go. We know now it took 12 hours to get to him.
Yeah. So what happened when I started last time? Around 6 o'clock, we started heading down from Buckhead Point, essentially straight down the left-hand side of the canyon. And we were going to try and line up with our coordinates that were given to us to get straight to them and rappel down 2 600-foot ropeways to finally get to the ledge that we were going to operate. Well, simultaneously at around the same time, at around 6 o'clock, 2 other members, Mike Getchis and Victor Walco, that Johnny just described, left out to go down the same route that the canyoneers and the patient had gone down the canyon. So they were starting from above, following the drainage course of the canyon to try and intercept them and make patient contact. And at around midnight is when they finally met them. And prior to that, they encountered about 8 rappels, multiple swims through ice-cold water that never sees much light. And they were once they finally reached the patient, it was nearly midnight. And at that same time, we were finally reaching around that 700-foot ledge above the patient. And at that time, some of the crews, we weren't going to send anybody down over the edge to unknown, so we had a little bit of downtime to put the crews down and have a little bit of rest and formulate our plan for first light. And the first plan initially was to hopefully get a helicopter in and short haul from his location was the potential. And so this whole time overnight, from midnight to the morning, Victor and Mike are with the patient, and they created a small fire and we're warming water, double bagging in Ziplocs and trying to keep the patient warm, because now we're running into hypothermia is a very real serious thing. And he's still in his wetsuit because of the cold water they were negotiating, and they're stuffing these water bags in to try and keep him warm overnight.
Oh, the pain he must have been.
And they had, you understand, this is backcountry, and he's very minimal amount of medical gear that they were even able to do. They were very small amount of stuff just to look at his vitals, and they're constantly giving us updates on what his vital signs are, and it was not good. He's in critical condition. I mean, respirations were...
And hours and hours and hours have gone by. And I mean,
yeah, and it's...
Johnny, tell me his injuries. I mean, we get down there, we find this guy. He's got some serious injuries. It's a 140-foot fall.
Yes, he broke both of his ankles. He dislocated his pelvis, which is literally the first time in the 9 years that I've been doing this that I've heard of it. He had a fractured spleen. He had multiple intestinal tears, and that's when you get into bacteria getting into your bloodstream and stuff. He had 5 intestinal tears, and he was just, and a head injury. He had been unconscious for a certain period of time, and he's still alive.
Was he conscious when when somebody got to him? I know his fellow rappellers had gotten down to him and they had stayed with him until rescue personnel could get there. Was he conscious when the rescue personnel?
He was.
That is amazing.
He had a brief moment of unconsciousness when the accident happened. When his friends got down to him, he was conscious, and throughout the whole process of being there, he was conscious. And actually, for considering his injuries, was very alert.
How'd you guys keep him alive?
They stayed with him, kept him warm overnight. In the morning, we brought down additional advanced life support equipment, fluids, and pain management medication. And so in the morning, we came down around 5:30. Myself and Aaron Sheehan from Sedona Fire were lowered with the Stokes basket, the litter that we were going to package him in, and all of this extra equipment, more warming equipment to warm him back up further. And when we first sat down on the ground in the morning, that first light, I mean, he did not look good at all.
I can imagine.
And so we immediately, the plan was to get him packaged and treated, get IVs in place and get all the medical stuff started going and get him packaged as soon as we could. We got him packaged, and the first plan was to hopefully get the helicopter in and get him hooked up. And so the helicopter,
Before we get him out of there, is he talking now? I mean, he's still conscious. Despite all these injuries, he's still conscious. And I find that so amazing because before the show started, I mean, we've done stories where people have fallen off a stepladder, hit their head, and they die. A man in Prescott had a fight and fell and hit his head just falling down on the sidewalk, and he died a couple days later. Here we got a guy 140 feet. It's just mind-boggling, 140 feet. And it's almost, what, 24 hours now? Is it almost 24 hours?
Yeah, we're getting about 18 now.
18? Okay.
Yeah, we'll get to 24 hours though.
Okay, so now Mr. Mike McIntyre, he's ready to be taken out.
Yeah, well, so we've got him packaged now, and as soon as we put the last strap on, the helicopter is ready there, coming in, almost perfect timing. They come in to try and attempt to bring down. They're going to heli-rappel another short haul technician down in to help hook up and then extract the litter back out. Well, first they have to they have yet to determine whether they think they can do it. So they come in, and if you can imagine splashing in a bathtub, this canyon at this point now is widened up a little bit, enough the helicopter can start to come in, but they get down in there and they can't get close enough to us, and we're watching the helicopter maybe 200 feet over our heads, which is not close enough yet. And because it's such a small canyon, it's starting to rock the bathwater. So all of his air is recirculating, and you can see the helicopter losing stability.
All right.
So they look at a couple different ways, and they say, no go, we can't do it. It's too risky.
Because I was going to ask you that, instead of rappelling all the way down there and taking all that time to rappel down to him, why not just have a helicopter come in and just lower you down?
That was definitely an option that we considered, and we even considered it the day prior. I mean, in fact, when we went in on the initial flyover with the Kingman aircraft, we did in fact go in as low as we possibly could, but they have to do a series of power tests in the aircraft, and unfortunately, because it is a box canyon and drafts are so erratic when the air is disturbed, like Lars was just describing, that they have to keep an exit plan in place. And in a box canyon, there was no exit plan. So as the further he went down into that canyon, the more difficult it was for him to have an exit or a plan B to get out if he got into trouble, if an erratic wind came. And unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on how you look at it, we only have 125 feet worth of short-haul line from the bottom of that helicopter. So we can't do anything longer than that.
You have to be very close then in order to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. What went wrong with his equipment? Why did he wind up falling 140 feet? Real quick before we take our next break.
So part of his thing was he liked, from what his friend said, he'd like to go faster down the rope. And that's just his personal preference. But he's taking a little bit of a risk. And part of that risk, when you like to rappel fast like that, you aren't able to use a safety backup. It's a small pressic that if you were able to lose control of your rope, it grabs onto the rope and will help stop you.
Mm-hmm.
And he was rigged for lower friction. A long rappel, as you rappel, you lose more friction. He got going too fast, was unable to control the speed, and lost control of it. So he wasn't free falling, but he still was close, rode the rope through his rappel device without losing his brake hand, and rode the rope all the way down that first 100 feet, hit, came off the rope, and fell another 40 feet down to that next ledge.
Let's take our second break. Johnny Cedillo and Lars Romig with the Sedona Fire District in studio today. They were part of the rescue of Mr. Mike McIntyre out of Payson back on August 13th in Oak Creek Canyon. I'm Paul David. This is Countywide. We'll be back in just a couple minutes.
For America's best music.
KYBZ.
AM 1600.
You may not know where to turn when you're struggling with a drug or alcohol problem. It can be completely overwhelming. Even if you are not the one who's using. If you're a parent looking for help, look to the partnership at drugfree.org. You're not alone.
Having a fire escape plan is very important to keep your family safe and together in the event of a fire. When you awake to the sound of a smoke detector and smoke in your room, don't stand straight up. Carefully roll off your bed and stay low under the smoke. If your door is shut, feel the door with the back of your hand. Slowly open the door if no heat is felt. Always stay low until you get to the outside of your home. Always have 2 ways out of your house and a specified meeting place somewhere outside your home. Home escape plans should be drawn up and rehearsed on a regular basis. This could be the difference between life and death if caught in a fire.
Sunny 100, your at-work radio station.
You're every word, you're everything.
With Malone in the morning, John Tesh in the evening, and the best variety of music all day long.
Waiting on the world to check.
Online at myradioplace.com.
And big girls don't cry.
Sunny 100, 100.1 FM.
Welcome back to Countywide. We've only got a couple minutes left in the program, unfortunately. But, okay, Mr. McIntyre has been put in the basket, and now it's time to get him out of there finally.
The helicopter was considered a no-go. We put him in the basket, and now we're going to have the haul team 700 feet above us haul us up out of the canyon. And so they hauled us, me and Mr. McIntyre, up in with him in a Stokes basket and me suspended, attending him, pulling him out up and over the cliffs as we made our way up.
Mm-hmm.
This is a 4-hour process that took over 100 resets in the line, and when we finally reached up about 600 feet of hauling, we were able to transfer Mr. McIntyre over to Johnny.
And Johnny, you're strapped to the Stokes basket with him at the end of a wire?
Correct. Originally, when DPS got there, I rappelled out of the helicopter. They set me on the ground. I go over and I put the Stokes basket, which they have them in already, in a bag. Essentially, it's called a Bowman bag. And then
I'm seeing pictures of you flying through the air right now.
Then we attach that to the bottom of the long line, which is at the base of the helicopter, 125 feet below.
Holy moly. Okay. And then today, how is he today?
I spoke to him about a week and a half ago, almost 2 weeks ago, and he was getting ready to be transferred to a rehab center. He survived all of his procedures to fix a lot of his injuries, to stabilize his pelvis, and to fix all of the burst intestines and everything. And he'll be going into a rehab center where he'll be doing lots of physical therapy to walk and get back.
The stuff we take for granted every day. Mm-hmm. He's got to relearn again, which is always mind-boggling to me as well. All right, and we wanted to make mention real quick, we've got about 45 seconds left in the program. One of the men that was involved in this rescue passed away Tuesday night during the accident in Wickenburg.
He did. Matthew Ewell, he was a civilian DPS Air Ranger pilot, and he was actually the pilot that flew the short-haul rescue on day 2. Was actually fatally killed in a car accident
Tuesday night
on
Highway 93. Yep.
Mm-hmm. Had a head-on into an individual who, from reportedly, just from what I have been told and what I've read, is that the individual in the SUV was aggressively passing multiple motorists when he went head-on into Matt's car and killed him.
He'll be definitely missed. I mean, it's not like
a valuable
these type of people that do this type of work are easy to replace. So
DPS Ranger these days is very, very short-staffed. Very.
There just aren't enough pilots currently to
so Mr. Matthew Ewell will be missed, most definitely. Well, guys, I got to thank you for coming and sharing this story, because we've seen the pictures. Johnny keeps sending us pictures, and it's just amazing, the rescue. So it's good to have you guys out there, and thanks for what you do.
Well, thank you very much for having us.
All right, Johnny Cedillo, Lars Romig, both with the Sedona Fire District. I'm Paul David. That's today's Countywide. We'll talk to you again next week.
This has been Countywide, a special presentation of Yavapai Broadcasting News. Listen in each Tuesday and Thursday as we tackle the hot topics and talk to the decision makers across Yavapai County. That's Countywide with Brad Miller and Paul David each Tuesday and Thursday on this Yavapai Broadcasting station.